YouTube Buzzy Coach, and today we're going over the fundamentals of Buzzy Markup. The magic all happens in the Buzzy Figma plugin. Let's dive in and take a closer look. Buzzy is a no and low code native app and website builder that lets you design, test and deploy working apps. It is a full stack solution. It includes the database, business logic, and storage to create native apps, responsive websites, MVPs, or prototypes of real data, user-generated content, and live forms straight from Figma. Now, if you weren't aware, Figma is a collaborative graphics editing and UI design tool used globally by designers, businesses, and large organizations to build better products. It's an industry standard. I'll save discussion of the Buzzy AI Assistant and how to leverage its significant capabilities for the next video. Suffice to say that while it is awesome, your project is still going to benefit with you, as the human in the equation, knowing how to shape, modify, tweak and extend what the AI gives you. We are about to step through a very simple example from scratch where we are going to use the Figma Buzzy plugin to mark up basic CRUD functionality on some information to be stored and rendered from our database. CRUD stands for create, read, update and delete, all fundamental building blocks of app development. Okay, first thing you want to make sure you have done is download Figma for desktop. You can use the browser version if you prefer, as there is no particular technical differences, but the desktop install, in my opinion, gives the better Figma experience. If you would like to pause this video while you visit figma.com/downloads, now would be an opportune moment. Alright, with Figma desktop installed, we're going to make a new design file, and on page 1 of the design file, we are going to make our first screen. In placing down this frame, I am choosing a fixed width layout that suits the iPhone SE. For this example, we're not going to be concerned with responsive layouts, high fidelity designing, Figma components, and all that other good stuff. I'll save that for a future video. I'm going to keep this example visually bland, as I want our focus to be on the Buzzy markup that will be applied to the various Figma layers. To get and launch the Buzzy plugin, go to the Figma logo menu top left of screen. Select Plugins, then Manage Plugins. In the search bar that opens, type in Buzzy. Choose the Buzzy no-code native app and website builder from the results. This will launch the Buzzy plugin. An additional step that you will need to perform is connecting to Buzzy. Make sure your active browser session corresponds to the same user you are logged into Figma as. Click the blue Connect to Buzzy button. In the new browser window that opens, click Allow Access. If necessary, click the blue Stuck Reload Plugin button. You will now be logged into the Buzzy plugin as the same user that is currently logged into Figma. The example we are going to mark up with Buzzy is a list of cities. We want to be able to add new cities to the list, display them as a list, as well as edit or delete each list item. We currently only have one screen in our Figma file, and we want this to be the screen that users see first. However, we have yet to define any screens for Buzzy. Let's give our frame, that is currently our only screen and that we want users to see first, a more meaningful name, like cities. While still having this screen frame layer selected, go into the Design tab in the Buzzy plugin and assign to it the Screen Interface role, with a screen type of Start. Note, your app should only ever have one start screen. While we're here, we will also make this screen responsive with a maximum width of 860 pixels. This means that our screen will expand out to a maximum of 860 pixels if the display that it is on has at least that resolution. This is an arbitrary design choice just for this example, and what you choose will differ dependent upon the specific application use case scenarios. We are now going to publish our app for the first time. To do this, go to the Publish tab in the Buzzy plugin. We need to name our app. For this example, we will call it Cities. Click the blue Create a New App button. The prompt is asking for our Figma file key. This is found via the blue Share button at the top right of screen in Figma. click Copy Link and close the dialog box that opened. Now paste the copied link into the Buzzy plugin and click the blue Continue button. Buzzy is now working its magic and is in the process of publishing this app. Before viewing what we have done thus far, let's go into the Data Model tab in Buzzy and start creating the data structure for our example. We're going to add a data table called Cities and make a field in that table called City Name. We will set the field type to be plain text and click the blue Save button. After doing this, we will go into the Publish tab and click the blue Update App button. Now, going back into the Data Model tab, we will see that we have created one data table called Cities that contains a single field, City Name, of type plain text. We are now ready to start Buzzy marking up the child layers of our parent Cities screen in order to get the functionality we are after. This Figma layer, currently called Frame 2, contains within it what will be our form capture elements. In this simple example, there are only two elements: the value to be entered by the user that we will insert into the city name field within the cities data table, and a submit button that will make this happen when it is clicked. I'm renaming this layer in the Figma file to be called Form and including some shorthand as to what Buzzy Markup is about to be applied to it. You can call the layer in the Figma file anything that you like. However, I do strongly suggest including a version of the shorthand that I am using, as it will make your Figma file layers and associated Buzzy Markup that may be applied to them easier to see at a glance. The C stands for Component Interface Role, the F for Form Component Type. Cities is the source data table, and Capture is what the form layout mode is going to be. It's a good idea for Buzzy beginners to use a more expanded shorthand. For example, something like Component, Form, Cities, Capture. You can use something different to brackets and slashes if you like. I like to keep my shorthand short, as it is convenient to keep the layer name brief, so it is not longer than the Figma left sidebar will display. It is personal preference, so use whatever suits you, just be consistent. The advantage of naming your layer first before applying the Buzzy Markup will become apparent in a moment. Make sure you are on the Figma layer that you want the markup to be on and head over to the Buzzy Plugin Design tab. Sometimes you will need to unselect component and then select it again if you don't see the additional options. For component type, choose Form. Note how the component name has defaulted to the name of our Figma layer. This is the advantage of naming your Figma layer first. It is a small productivity boost versus having to rename it in two locations if we had left it as Frame 2 before applying the Buzzy Markup. For the source data table, choose Cities and select Capture Layout for the Form Layout mode. Next, we are going to name the child layer currently called Frame 1 to Row. Again, you could call this anything that makes sense. We are not going to put any Buzzy Markup on this layer. Frame 4 is next to be renamed. There is going to be no Buzzy Markup on this layer either, as the child element of this layer is where we want the user to type the name of the city they wish to add. We are going to rename this layer Input. The text element called Value, which is the child element to our input layer, we are going to rename to Value with shorthand F/city name. The F in this case standing for field and city name being the name of the relevant field. Again, while having this Figma layer selected, we will go to the Design tab of the Buzzy plugin and mark up the layer. This time, the interface role we are going to use is Field. We will then select the existing field value we made earlier in the cities data table called City Name. For the field mode, we will choose Insert, as we are currently within a capture form in our layout hierarchy and want the value that has been entered by the user to be inserted into our city name field in the cities data table. I'm renaming Frame 3, which is our 1 pixel high white design element, to Div, which is an abbreviation for divider. Moving down to the layer where our list of cities will be displayed. This is currently called Row. I'm going to wrap this row in a new auto layout frame by selecting it and pressing Shift A. I am renaming this new parent layer Result, Component View Cities, using my shorthand. The layer that we wrapped called Row is going to be our repeating element, so I'm going to rename it as such. I'm also going to rename our button labels, so that they match what the buttons are going to be marked up to do. This text element layer called City Name is where we want the city name to be displayed. I'm going to put my Buzzy shorthand on it similar to what we did for the form component above, with the difference this is going to be in field summary mode as opposed to capture. In my shorthand, if it is not noted otherwise, the field is in summary mode, so I don't bother putting summary in the shorthand. Again, feel free to use your own shorthand or adaptive version of what you see me using. Now, we are going to head over to the Design tab in the Buzzy plugin and mark this all up. Selecting our results layer that will contain our list of city names, we're going to set it as a component interface role with a component type of view. The component name defaults to what the Figma layer name is, and we will select cities as the source data table. The view layout mode we want is results layout. We will come back to the sorting options for this component view in a moment. Next, we are selecting the city name text layer element and marking it up with a field interface role and selecting the city name field in the cities data table. The field mode is going to be of type summary. The parent layer called row is what we want to be the repeating element within this result component view. To make this the case, click the Set as Repeating Element option in the Design tab while having this layer selected. Okay, now let's mark up our Submit and Delete buttons so that they function how we want them to. Selecting the Submit button layer, we will assign the interface role of Action with the action type of Submit. The screen we want to navigate to after this button is clicked is the screen we are currently on, so we select the city screen. We will leave the Pass Data to Target screen option as is, which is submitted data. For the Delete button, we will set an interface role of Action with an action type of Delete. We are not going to worry about delete confirmation screens for this example, so we are not going to select a target screen and will leave Pass Data to Target screen as no data. Back to the Publish tab in the Buzzy plugin, we are going to update the app again. Once this is completed, we are going to click the View in Live Mode button. This will launch our city's web app in a new browser window. We will now test our progress with this web app using the name of one of the finest cities in the world and clicking the Submit button that we made. There is our list of cities, although we have only entered one so far, so let's put a few more in. Okay, that looks a bit more like a list. Note that the display order of our list has defaulted to last entered at the top. Let's iterate and make the UX of our input field a little more user-friendly. Okay, that will do. Now, let's make the sort order of our list alphabetical. To do this, we will go into the Data Model tab and click on the field City Name. We will make it a key field, selecting it as Key Field 1. This is going to allow us to sort on this field. We are going to update the app again via the Publish tab to update this change to the Data Model. Then, select our result layer with our city's component view and go into the Design tab in the Buzzy plugin. Under Sorting, we are going to select City Name. It appears here as a choice because we made it a key field and updated our app. Okay, Publish tab and update app again. When that is done, we are going to click Reload on our web app in our browser. There we go. The input area where we want our user to enter city names is more intuitive, and we now have our list of cities ordered alphabetically. Let's enter another city name or two, testing our Create functionality. We can see that our Read functionality is working as the cities are being listed out. Now let's test our Delete functionality. Alright, that's 3 out of 4 so far in terms of CRUD. If you remember, that stands for Create, Read, Update and Delete. We are missing our Update functionality. Before addressing that, I'll create some more city names given that we just deleted the first few that I entered. To get our edit button working and thus achieve our desired update functionality, we are going to make our second screen. Note that I've also decided to change the max width to 420 pixels. There are a few ways to duplicate a frame or any Figma element. The way I'm doing it here is holding down Alt while I click and drag to make a copy. We are going to rename this new screen as Cities/Edit and remove some layers and elements that we don't need for this screen. Speaking of this screen, we are going to via the Design tab change the screen type to Overlay. This means that this screen will float above our first screen when it is navigated to. This is sometimes referred to as a modal or pop-up. Selecting the layer with our form component, we are going to change the form layout mode to Edit and update the name of the component in the Buzzy plugin and update the Figma layer name accordingly. The label on our Submit button on this new screen we are going to change to Close. Clicking on the label's parent button layer, we will change the Buzzy Markup to be an action of type Close overlay. Selecting the Edit button within our Cities list repeating row, we will mark it up as action of type Navigate, and select for Navigate to our Cities/Edit screen. Past data to target screen we will leave set to Current Data. Current data means the data pertaining to the current row within the repeating element of our component view. This is so we can send the right data to our Cities/Edit screen when the Edit button is clicked for each corresponding row within our Cities list. We will go into the Publish tab and update our app again, and then when finished updating, reload our browser with our web app in it. As you can see, the Edit buttons are now all clickable. Let's enter a city with a misspelling. Oops, Meborn is not the correct spelling. Let's test our edit functionality. Something is amiss. Iterating and checking for errors is standard practice. I know what we forgot to do. We did not change the layout mode on the element we copied over. It's still in insert mode. We want it to be set to edit mode, as it is now inside a form component that is set to edit. Let's update the app, reload our browser with the web app in it, and check to see if that has fixed the problem. It has, and we can now update our city name to have the correct spelling. That's our basic CRUD functionality completed for this simple example. By gaining an understanding of basic Buzzy Markup fundamentals, you should now be better able to make sense of what is going on when looking at any Buzzy app, such as the various examples provided and available for download via figma.com/@buzzy, or screens that are outputted by the Buzzy AI Assistant. For the next video, I am planning on focusing on the AI Assistant and how to best leverage its capabilities for your project. AI is obviously a hot ticket item, and I'm looking forward to making it. Subscribe to the Buzzy Coach YouTube channel to be notified when that is published. I also highly recommend subscribing to the official Buzzy YouTube channel. You will find there a lot of great videos that assist in getting started using Buzzy. As for this channel, I've got plenty of other videos planned covering basic, intermediate and advanced concepts across the various app development spheres that Buzzy encompasses. For this video, I was aiming around the 20-minute mark for overall length. Wanted to provide an introduction to Buzzy as this is the first video for this channel, along with enough in-depth information on Buzzy Markup fundamentals to get you on the path to success with your project. My name is Andrew Clark and I am a Buzzy Coach for Form.Global, a digital creator and responsible for the Buzzy Coach YouTube channel. It has been my pleasure making this first video. I hope you have enjoyed it and would like to thank you for watching.